Clearly you've never been to my page. I'm gonna keep calling y'all out until we heal about it. So let's go, part 2. Now, were you quiet, or was it that you were so ignored and invalidated that you thought it was just better not to really speak at all? Or were you loud because you grew up in a household that asserted dominance with loudness, so now you think to be heard that you have to scream about it? Were you well behaved, or did you just have a fear of authority? Were you easygoing and friendly, or were you just afraid to speak up for yourself and mirrored everyone's personality around you so they would like you? Were you shy, or were you weary of people because you've seen the evil very early on in your life and you wanted to protect yourself from that? Were you a loner, or was it that you were never taught proper communication skills, so it was hard to communicate and make friends with people? Were you hyperactive, or was it just that you had so much energy built up and no outlet to release it, and you always got ridiculed when you did try to release it your way? All right, I'm gonna give y'all a break. No more put a finger downs for a little bit. But I love y'all.
So are you just not going to talk to me? So do you want to tell me what I've done wrong? So you still not going to talk to me? Can you at least please tell me what I've done wrong? I don't deserve this. What are you crying for? Don't cry. Look, we're going to be okay. Things just happen. We both make mistakes. I'm crying because you don't talk to me to tell me what mistakes I've made. You just completely shut me off. Because you should know what you've done wrong. Well, I shouldn't have to explain it to you. You're an adult. You should know what you've done wrong to me. Oh my God, why are you like this? Fine then. Just leave me like everybody else has done.
One of my biggest pet peeves and triggers is manipulation. It's because when you try to manipulate me, you're trying to take away my right to make a decision and my rights to choose whether I want to do something or not. So what I've done was I've developed a question that can only be answered the right way. And that question is, how can I help you become the best version of yourself? Now, if it sounds like a bunch of you got to do this, you got to do that, and me, I tend to veer off from that person or be a little bit more cautious. But it was one person who answered this question correctly. And she said, you can't help me become the best version of me. That is what I have to do. What you can do is hold me accountable to treating you the way you want to be treated. Take care.
Anyone from a narcissistic family, nuclear families and extended families enable narcissistic grandparents, narcissistic parents, narcissistic adult children, and aunts and uncles and cousins. You know the drill. In this way, if you are the family member who is able to see this pattern clearly, you end up often being the one who's scapegoated or silenced or gaslighted by everyone else in the family system. If you try to distance yourself from your family system, you're the one who's pathologized and called out for being, I don't know, cold or disloyal or petty. Narcissistic family systems stay in place because of enabling. The dynamic becomes, see something, say nothing.
Home, then the narcissist will ensure that the children grow up in a broken home as well.
If you see or live with somebody with these characteristics and they're your mother, please do not fuck with them. When I tell you my mom will go out her way to sabotage me, it's ridiculous. My mom would give my son candy after watching me cook dinner. Like, she would sit there and watch me cook dinner and then still give him candy just to say she didn't know. Or it's just a little piece of candy. When I was potty training my son, my mom would not take him to the bathroom. She would actively let him pee or poop in his pull-up and then be like, well, you need to be walking around all day to make sure he don't do that. Even if he told her he had to pee, she would not take him. So now if I'm doing my work or editing something, I have to make sure every 10 minutes I'm walking around patrolling. I might as well apply to be a security guard at the mall the way I patrol this hoe. They don't want to see you innovative. They don't want to see you successful. My mom already told me out her mouth she wants me to be stressed because that's a part of parents. Mind you, she don't actively do this to my other siblings. She just me. Family is who you make it, and she ain't mine.
Okay, I just learned this and I want to tell people about this because I'm 20 and I now am literally just now learning about this. People with narcissistic tendencies, so like people that just like talk you in loops and shit and just like they do not care what you have to say. They just care about what they have to respond, you know? Like they just, yeah. Narcissists, when they talk to you, you literally like get brain damage and like start zoning out because you don't know what to pay attention to, you don't know what's important, you don't know what's real, you don't know what to care about. So like you literally just start forgetting shit. So kids that were raised with narcissistic parents have short-term memory. All of my short-term memory loss is not from weed. Wow, discoveries.
So I just want to talk about pseudo-mutuality and narcissistic family structures. I married into a narcissistic family. I didn't know until I had been married to my husband for about a year. But since then, I've learned a lot about narcissistic family structure through a lot of valuable resources and through therapy. And pseudo-mutuality is something that narcissistic parents use as an idea to show the rest of the world that their family is super close and tight-knit, when in reality, within the family structure and behind closed doors, they're not close at all. They are super fake, the relationships are unhealthy, and it's full of gaslighting and manipulation. And this idea of fake closeness is what makes it so hard when you go to speak about narcissistic abuse, especially when your narcissistic abuser is covert, which was the instance for my husband and I. So on the outside, she had put on this front that they were so close and she was this great caring mother, but you don't actually get to see the abuse until you are within the family structure, which makes it so hard for other people to believe because they don't see that.
My spiritual father taught me this, and it changed my life. He said this, he said, be careful of people that feed you to eat you. There are some people who are going to want to connect with you in your life, and their goal is not to add value to you so that you can continue being blessed. No, they are going to say these positive things, do positive things for you, make you feel good, but in the end, take advantage of you, manipulate you, and the list of negative things goes on and on and on. So be careful of people who are feeding you to eat you.
If it feels like you love people way more than they love you back, you might have been raised by a narcissist, and this is why. When a narcissist has a child, they see that child as an extension of themselves. It's part of them. They control it, they own it. Like, they do not have a kid because they want to create a whole separate human being, right? They literally think of this child as part of them. And because of that, they are forcing their reality on the child from a very early age. When you're a kid, learning intuition and learning how to trust your gut and what gut feelings mean is a huge part of growing up. But when you're raised by a narcissist, they gaslight all of that the fuck out of you. Your reality isn't real. What you think doesn't matter. What you feel isn't real. It's only what I think and what I feel that matters. I'm right. I'm the parent. Sound familiar? In these relationships, these kids are expected to give and give and give so much and placate so much to these parents' emotional needs just to keep shit like calm and at bay, right? So when you have the combination of a kid placating to a whole adult's emotions rather than vice versa and getting their reality and emotions completely and totally denied, you get the toxic version of an empath, which is basically just a narcissist enabler. Finding out that I was a narcissist enabler was a fat shot to the chest because that's literally the last thing on this goddamn planet that I want to be. But the first step to fixing a problem is admitting the problem. So, before I figured this out, I would find myself making so many excuses for shit behavior, right? And I thought that that was love. Oh my god, no, he's had such a hard childhood. No, his dad used to yell at him. Blah, 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 blah. I'm sure whoever the fuck he is, wherever the fuck she is, I'm sure they have a great reason. Is that ever an excuse to be a piece of shit? Absolutely fucking not. And after I finally stopped making excuses for that behavior and stopped gaslighting myself into thinking that whatever the fuck they were doing to me was okay, I then had to look at the root of that defense mechanism, because it's obviously a defense mechanism that I picked up from being raised by a narcissist. I give and I give and I give and I give because I want to, and because I love to see people happy, and because I am so deeply instilled with a fear of abandonment, you know? Like, I am so deeply instilled with a fear of, if you're not perfect and you don't treat me perfect and you don't basically act like my fucking mom, I'm gonna leave you. You know what I mean? And that's what all of these young narcissistic men and young narcissistic women do to these very vulnerable empaths that don't know that they are a victim of narcissistic abuse and or don't know how to fix it. For a long time, I thought my internal compass was completely broken. That is not the case. My internal compass just points towards home, and that is where the real work lies.
Repressed anger does not give you peace. It gives you shame. An experience happened where your needs or your worth or your wants were violated. Your brain now needs a way to make sense of that experience and explain why it happened. And if you're not allowed to explain the experience by saying, you shouldn't have done that, you'll explain it by saying, I shouldn't have wanted that. I'm just not lovable in that way. I'm just not likable in that way. I don't know why I put myself in that position. You can't just not have an explanation. So if you're not allowed to have an explanation that includes placing blame outwardly, getting angry, you'll place blame inwardly, getting ashamed. The energy has nowhere to go but in, which means if we start looking at our shame as possibly just little deposits of repressed and unaddressed anger, we might find we have whole new stories to tell around these experiences and a whole new toolkit with which to work with that shame and those crunchy, gritty emotions. And in case you need to hear it, you are allowed to look at somebody else and say, you shouldn't have done that. This is on you.